Welcome. Welcome to each and every one of you. It is 5 p.m. It is Saturday, and this is MindShift. I'm Avneet Kohli, and I think I must begin by saying a very special thank you to all you guys who show up every time I have a masterclass. I have these guests who come in. Thank you so much for your support. And I assure you, just like every other piece of content and initiative that I put out there, this episode of Mindshift is going to be a truly empowering one. We are going to be talking about self mastery. We are going to be talking about personal and professional development, and more so through the lens, specially directed towards entrepreneurship today. So, I have a very special guest, someone who is a friend, someone who's been inspiration, someone who is possibly somebody I can pick up the phone at any point and ask for advice, because she is somebody who would have officially, I think, heard the most amount of stories of failed businesses with the several initiatives that she does. And I'm so excited to tell you so much about her. But before that, here's a little glimpse. All right, let's all level up and power on. My guest today is someone who has been on a mission to support and demystify myths around entrepreneurship. She is a social and a serial entrepreneur with multiple startups to her credit. She started her entrepreneurial journey organizing events for young professionals to provide them with a platform to network in the hotspots of London. And over the years, she has grown into spearheading multiple community events, the most popular one and my favorite one being Fun DXB here in the happening city of Dubai, which is a global movement and the local version of the very popular concept Fuck Up Nights, where stories of failed businesses and projects are told, questioned, and most importantly, celebrated. Her curiosity for personal development has earned her various certifications in neurolinguistic programming, in life coaching, in emotional intelligence, in access consciousness, in theta healing, and various other modalities that are directed towards people and human development. Recently, she actually evolved her love for connecting people, startups, and everything beyond into a mobile application that connects entrepreneurs and freelancers with business professionals, coaches, mentors, and other like minded startup owners to collaborate and build their ideas into thriving startups. It's called Hubpreneur, so you absolutely must go download and check it out. It's a free app. But before that, Hubpreneur is also where entrepreneurs can transform an idea into a business and scale an existing business to the next level. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, join me in welcoming the very, very lovely, dynamic Fariba Zoulfaghari.
Oh my goodness. I love that introduction. You have to be the person who's going to co-host with me at every event. I love that. Thank you. What a beautiful introduction.
Well, it's as many words as I can take. For me, it's like, look at this girl. She arrives in Dubai from nowhere. She comes around at a time when the startup culture in Dubai is not, there's no proper process, there's no proper structure, there's no one even probably understood that time and age. But for you to come in at that point, understand the different highs and lows as an individual entrepreneur, and to nurture that community, I think the first thing I really want to know is what is different between then and now. How have you seen the startup, culture and ecosystem evolve in Dubai?
Well, before I start that, the stream of consciousness that I'm going to start with to answer your questions, because I wanted to first of all thank you for setting up this platform. I think it's a brilliant idea that you're bringing together people who are changing the game in their own ways and with their own perspectives and their own visions of what they want to do. So I'm genuinely very, very proud to be part of this whole journey with you. So thank you for inviting me. I remember we had some conversations back in, I think it was before Corona, it was around January, February time. And I think that goes to support the answer that I'm going to give to your question, that when people have an idea of what they want to do, they start with the best intentions and they put everything they have into it. It's an idea, it's like their baby, they want to grow it and they want it to be a super success. And ultimately, what happens along the way is they either face challenges, obstacles. So with you and I, when we wanted to start some certain events and projects, you had some big ideas and I was like, great, let's go with it. I was cultivating your concept, and then we were hit with the COVID-19 situation.
Corona?
So a huge obstacle and a barrier that a lot of entrepreneurs, startups, and SMEs tend to face is they have a great idea, and if they're not in the right time with the right resources, they don't have the momentum, and it's purely about momentum. So I honestly believe that with all the resources in the world, if you don't have the right mindset, which is why I love the concept of this talk show that you've got, it is about a mindset and a mindset shift, because no matter what resources you've got to hand, no matter where you are in the world. And I love Dubai. Honestly, this is like one big incubator. And with the resources we've got, when you have an idea, you do the due diligence, you do your research, you find your prospective clients, you perfect the idea. And then with the right funding, whether it's bootstrapping, which is I tend to go for, or whether you get investment or any kind of level of investment to grow the idea, if you don't have the right capabilities when it comes to being able to be adaptable, being able to take criticism and feedback in a positive way, being able to completely be focused with a whole amount of, let's see what we can do with this. So not stubborn, but fully focused with flexibility. These are the elements that I think create the foundation of entrepreneurship. And I have literally found it to be, I didn't set out on this journey to demystify entrepreneurship and the myths that go along with it. It just happened to be that I'm very outspoken, as you all know. I'm very opinionated, and I tend to call things straight out as they are. So I don't like to sugarcoat things, and I don't want to put people into a false sense of security or a, a let's say a positive attitude where it's not really going to help them. I believe in optimism rather than positivity, because if something goes wrong and you can't get into a positive state of mind, you can't get yourself out of that stuckness. But with optimism, you tend to believe that there is light at the end of the tunnel, so you can find solutions and opportunities and possibilities to try and get out of wherever you are. And I think the startup scene and the way that everything has changed in the last few years, when I started back in, I think it was I actually started back in university in the UK, but when I came here into Dubai, I started working with the British Embassy. So I was supporting SMEs that were British owned businesses to come and set up here. And I didn't have any idea that I wanted to get into this. It was more about always cultivating and spearheading growth, business growth, bilateral trade. It's always promoting that. And I think I came to realize that people have ideas. They don't know the best route to market. They don't know how to start when there's quite a saturated situation in any given market it might be. So it kind of got my mind into, what can I do with this? Where can I take this? But I still didn't think about the potential of where I can take it as a business. And I think one of the best um, things that I could pass on to anyone else who wants to get into their own business. Don't try to find the entire path of where you're going from A to Z from day one. Let things transpire. Have faith in the path that you're on, that things will work out. And I didn't want to have the entire plan written out for me. I just kind of said, let's go with this. I have an idea, I have an initiative. Let's see what happens. I did a lot of different things, consulting work and all of this ad hoc basis until I came to realize there is a gap in the market. And how can I capitalize on this gap? That's when things started to manifest in a way that I was always behind the scene, supporting startups through events, marketing, and all of this. And then I started to get on let's say I started to get on stage and support businesses and run the events in a way where I really got to allow people to express what was their biggest fear? Where did they fail? How can that lesson of failure help other people? And that's been one of my favorite things I've ever done. It was a pure passion project in as far as I made no money from it, in as far as all the events that we did. I think I've moderated over 80 different entrepreneurs on various levels within the region. And it's been an absolute joy because as an entrepreneur, I didn't want to allow failure to set me back. So I was very intrigued because I am a curious person to understand where did they fail and how can it prevent me from doing the same? And I realized that's what a lot of people came to the events to understand. That's what the whole startup scene has evolved. It's an evolution. It went in a very slow process. Now we have accelerators, incubators, setting up your business has been relatively challenging, but it's a lot easier now. And even during COVID, I checked some statistics, and there is quite a high number of businesses that have set up in free zones just during the COVID scenario because people were looking at a side hustle. They were looking at something they can do while they were on unpaid leave, or they were finding that they didn't have that level of certainty. So they wanted to have something secure for themselves. And the number of, Dubai licenses was actually rising during COVID-19, which I find incredible because I think a situation of that magnitude that people think, oh my God, I don't have a backup plan. I didn't see this coming. What am I going to do moving forward? It gets you to prioritize. And if anyone had an idea to set up a business, I've come to realize a lot of people set up businesses. I set up another business just a few weeks ago at the end of COVID-19 because I just thought, what am I waiting for? It's now or never. And then there was a lot of people who had started a business and they just realized it's not for them. It wasn't going to work. They didn't have the full conviction to do it. So whenever you have endings, there is always new beginnings. And
Beginning.
this is what I see Dubai as. It's a huge platform where people can come and start anything. And there is no end to what you can create here. This is why I love this city, honestly. And I'm telling you, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying this, because I really, since the day I came here, I just had a really positive outlook. And the energy of this place is about you can create whatever you want. You have the
Mm.
vision, put the right energy into it, get the right people in the right place, and you can make it work. And I've had a lot of failures in the last 11 years while I've been here, but it didn't stop me. And I think that's the mindset you've got to have. So for me, that's the progress. And I don't know where it's going to go, but I have a lot of hope for startups and the entrepreneurial mindset and people who want to start something and change the game and do something that they're in charge of. I'm a big advocate, which is why I love demystifying any myths that come into people's, oh, I'm not sure about this. I'm like, but have you thought about this? And I'm not sure, well, have you thought? And I'm always trying to give them a different perspective so that they don't get stuck in this tunnel vision mindset. You know what I mean?
You have a lot of hope, and I have a lot of questions and a lot of, I think, phrases because whether or not they're a myth, I'd like to know from you. So, can I ask for your permission to ask?
Of course you can. Go ahead.
So, Fari, something I think I was doing again a lot of research, and three things that came up again and again, which kind of had me on the fence. Where first thing that people had to say is, especially women, was that white collar professionals or working executives, especially those are women, never make good entrepreneurs. What are your comments?
I'm going to try and keep it very PC on this because I would say very easily that I don't think labeling anyone or a situation is helpful in the progress of personal development, professional development, starting something. And honestly, I have seen um, people who have come from many different backgrounds. And I'm not even talking ethnicity, but I'm talking about where they are on the ladder.
Mm,
Women versus men, this entire concept has been going on and it will go on forever. At the
uh,
end of the day, there are a lot of free zones who are offering amazing startup packages for women entrepreneurs, not only because they have a vision and they need, the right support, but because the UAE believes in entrepreneurship. And women, I do believe, have the right mindset. And I'm not going to stereotype it, but because I'll speak personally, I'm extremely good at multitasking. And I think as an entrepreneur, you need to be able to have many different things going at the same time. If you put all your eggs in one basket, what you're doing is ultimately narrowing in your opportunities. So
right.
we have the capability of having very different things going on at the same time. I've always done that. And I actually, in fact, get quite bored when I have only one project. So in our
That's
in our
right.
natural ability, we're able to multitask, which is a fundamental um, let's say personality trait or characteristics of an entrepreneur who can do various different things and just move forward without putting all their eggs in one basket. So I don't necessarily agree with that concept. And when it comes to white collar, honestly, I've seen people who have come from all different backgrounds, and even students who have come out, and we did actually a Fund DXB roadshow with universities, which was eye-opening. The students now, compared to when I was a student, very different level. They're super curious. They they literally don't let you finish a sentence without asking you three questions. And I love that because they're hungry and they don't want to wait. So
Mm,
those are again characteristics of entrepreneurship, that you don't want to sit there and let an idea percolate. You want to get going yesterday. So
mm,
all of these aspects, I think, the more we focus on what identifies a successful entrepreneur, the more we're focusing on stereotyping and labeling. And I don't believe that we need to be doing that. I think we're more advanced in allowing various different people, personalities, and let's say people from different backgrounds to come in and change the game. And I love the fact that there are people who are running their podcasts, they're running successful businesses, and they're coming from backgrounds that you wouldn't know ordinarily expect them to be. So these are the things that I think are what entrepreneurship is about. It's like you have a melting pot of
mm,
everyone and every other idea, and you just put them in and see who has the concept of longevity, who is in it for the long haul. They're the ones who are going to be there. So I think it's not really a pros and cons of men versus women. I think we're all capable. I know a lot of very capable men who are good at multitasking. So again, I don't agree with men are not good at multitasking. I've met and worked with various different men who are very good at multitasking because they apply themselves. And you can learn the
mm,
characteristics. Like me, I'm a very impatient person. What I've learned to do is learn patience. So I've gone against what is my natural way because I
mm,
realized it wasn't working for me. So I think if you realize what your strengths and weaknesses are, then you can create anything. And the only thing I would suggest, as if you are a woman or a man or a student or whatever it is, doesn't matter. Do what I did back in university, which is a SWOT analysis. Strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and it's like a matrix. So you put your strengths and
According,
weaknesses, and you put everything that is you feel is your strength versus your weakness, and then the same as what are the opportunities that are open to you, and what do you see as a threat. That matrix in itself allows you to identify where you want to work on, which aspects of your own personality that you want to improve. And it's a huge tool that can literally shift your mind from I'm not sure about this. I don't think I've got it. It's not for me. And you literally look at it on paper, like theoretically, it's one thing, but when you put it on paper, it becomes a different aspect. And you start to see, well, wait a minute, I didn't realize I have that many strengths. And when I did it for
Mm.
myself, I realized, okay, so far these initiatives failed. That's okay. But what are my strengths? My goodness, I've got quite a lot of them. So how can I capitalize on my strengths while at the same time improving what I have recognized as a weakness and see how I can move it forward? So patience, or lack of patience, I should say, was in my weakness box. And I
Mm.
think when I started working on that, it really allowed me to show up better as a project manager, show up better as a event manager, show up better as just a human being that was able to support other people, friends, family, listening. Like someone would come in and listen and confide in me, and I'd want to give them the solution right away. And I realized it's not about that. It's about listening to them and having the patience to do so. So these little tools that I use for business plans, I used for my life plan, and it
Mm.
shifted the way that I perceive things in my own self. And I think that's one of the things that if entrepreneurs focus more on themselves as opposed to their business, they will make any business work
Work.
because they're stronger, more centered, more complete within themselves rather than finding that strength within the success of a business or how much money that business is going to make. It's about how much satisfaction are you looking to receive from running the initiative. So it's enjoy the process, not just the outcome. That shift, I think, will allow a lot of people to take that leap. So honestly, there's a lot of resources out there, whatever background you're from, whatever gender you are, there are opportunities. When you want to do something, nothing will stop you. And you're in a country where it's supporting entrepreneurship. There are so many different resources that you can tap into. It's just an abundance of how you can start an idea, and whether you don't know what to do, you can tap into incubators. If you do have an idea and you want to launch it, you can do it with the least amount of investment. So I think that's one of the myths that I like to, yeah. I think I've lost you. I don't know what's happened, but whether you can hear me or whether you can hear Avneet and not me, I'm not sure. Ah, she's back. Hooray,
Yeah,
you're
can
here. I
you
was
hear
thinking,
me?
what happened?
Well, if a virus can take the whole world down, I guess tech can take me down once in a while. So,
I hope I prefer that the tech situation takes you down than the virus. So that's all good with me.
okay. So I think I just want to make sure that I heard you right with your take on that particular phrase that
Yeah.
white collar professionals do not make good entrepreneurs was something that you didn't want them to label themselves. It's not about putting yourself in a box, but being a multitasker, being aware of your strengths, being patient, going out there and doing stuff rather than ruminating with ideas in your mind.
Yeah.
So I think there
Yeah.
was a lot of nuggets of wisdom with what you mentioned out there. But that brings me to the second statement, which is
Mhm.
when we talk of entrepreneurship, now I need your take on whether or not this is a myth. Does a good product translate into a good business automatically? Is this a myth or not?
Myth. The easiest way I can say it. There is no sure thing in a business, and I really want to make people understand that no matter how strong or secure you think your business plan is, if you are hitting it too late, it's done. If you're hitting it too early, you're too early for it. I've done initiatives where it was too early in the game, and I sat back. I rethought the whole thing. I revamped the concept, and I came 2 years later, and it took off. Just to support the fact that the idea was good, the timing was wrong. And I
Mm,
think a lot of people put more emphasis on getting a really strong business plan, and then they don't do the due diligence. So I would always say there's no point bringing out a business when you believe in it 100% and you've asked your family and friends and they all say it's fantastic. I think you should go ahead with it, and you haven't tested the market. You need
mm,
to test the market. If the market sees a need for this product or service, then spend the time and the resources, whether it's, money, or your money or someone else's money, to improve it and to tweak it and to make it the best it can be. Because at the end of the day, if you're not solving a solution, solving a problem, your
mm,
solution is unwanted. So there's
mm,
no point bringing an amazing business plan to the forefront when it's not solving a problem. So at
mm,
the end of the day, if you see a gap in the market, find the solution to fill the gap. Don't think about, well, you have an Uber. I can be a competitor to Uber. Yeah, of course you can. We have Kareem. And I don't believe in when there is a forerunner that they've monopolized the idea. No, there's always other businesses that can come as a competitor, and they can offer something different that will cater to somebody else's needs. But at the same time, it does mean that you need to really invest in the business idea and make it so your USP has to be so different that people can easily differentiate you. Uber and Kareem, if I asked you what's the difference between Uber and Kareem, what would your answer be?
Uh, nothing much actually. I think it's just that Kareem is local to UAE, whereas Uber is, global. I think that's
Pretty
mainly
much.
it. Yeah.
There you go. That's what a lot of people would assume the difference in Uber and Kareem, that Uber is an international brand, whereas Kareem is a local, well, it's a unicorn now, but it's a local brand that
Mm,
grew with, two founders who just had the idea of let's do something that we can get people here in the UAE to take more ownership in their own finances and spearhead their own, way forward professionally. However, fundamentally, what it is, the essence of these different brands is that one is easier to pivot. So Kareem at the time, before it became a unicorn, was easier to pivot in where they saw a gap. They would, they would kind of jump on it. They would bring out loyalty programs. They would bring out kind of refer us to a friend, and whatever you bring on, you take a share of whatever we do. We have these codes. They would really join up with event companies. So whenever we did events, I would always sign up with Kareem to basically showcase their voucher code. Anyone who wants to show up to the event would benefit from attending using a Kareem. Uber didn't offer that. So Kareem are a lot better with local businesses to collaborate and to partner with. Uber don't offer those services. And I think as a local business, you kind of feel which one works for you. So I've always used both, but if I have to choose, I would always choose Kareem. I'm the kind of person that would always support a startup anyway. So I know they're a unicorn. I know they don't classify as a startup anymore, but I would support a local business. And so I would go towards the Kareem over the Uber. But ultimately, just because Uber existed, who would have thought that Kareem would have made it a
sorry,
success?
what is a unicorn in this context?
Basically, a unicorn is when they hit a certain level within regards to value. So I can't actually remember exactly what the value is, but they hit a value when they are sold. So a startup would actually start gradually growing. And when they hit a certain value with regards to their level of investment and how much they can actually sell for, then they become a unicorn. So it was a couple of years ago, one of the first locally grown businesses that actually became a unicorn. And I think that's where it just exploded. And everyone now wants to be the next Kareem, where they started a small idea. And I watched one of the founders actually in an event where he was explaining at the beginning, they were taking the bus to go from Dubai to Abu Dhabi to attend meetings. And this
Mm,
is the startup of how Kareem started. And I can share that with a lot of different people's points of view. It's not a rosy scenario. It's not, a glamorous situation to start any business. There is a level of I'm not going to call it sacrifice, but there is a level of give and take. And I
Mm.
think if you want an idea to work, you really have to believe in it. And no matter how many naysayers you've got around you, you've got to keep going. And I think if you have the right people around you, and as they say, your vibe attracts your tribe. If you have the right people around you, they support you. They don't sit there and question. I don't dismiss the people who question, because I think they might hit upon something that you've missed. But if
Mm.
they are trying to talk you out of something, they're not there supporting you. So have the right people around you, get that momentum going with regards to having your vision, having your goals, and just go with it. At the end of the day, anyone can come and tell you, though, the idea's been done before. What can you add to the mix? I mean, who are you to come into the game when you've got all these big players? But at the end of the day, that's exactly how things happen. If someone said to Airbnb, what's the point of Airbnb? You have all of these hotels as your competitors. There would be no Airbnb, but it's an entire game changer because they own zero properties. And
Oh,
then you have,
everyone finds their own place, I guess.
exactly,
You find your
there you
own
go.
market. Yeah. But
They
okay,
changed the game.
Farid, today we're talking about philosophy in business. Yeah, because
Hmm.
everyone kind of sets out with these preset ideas of what
Yeah,
works, what does not work, what they would have heard from a generation or two generations earlier, and with what they think is in and
yeah,
around, trying to find your place in today's market. And though
yeah.
you and I could very easily say, you need whatever your venture is, it needs to solve a problem, but sadly enough, we're also a generation where there aren't that many problems left, which are monetizable. Almost everything that could be a day-to-day human need has been invented. Hence, a lot of people get stuck in their head. A lot of people dread failure. They're like, they dwell in self-doubt. They dwell in, what am I doing that's different? What if I fail? The fear of judgment, rejection, fear of effort going down the wrong lane. But so that is the current climate, especially with COVID, that seems to have taken a further spark. But I think what I'm curious to know is when you started out on your journey, you've always spoken about the importance of failure and what comes after. And I want to know what has been your greatest failure, which has been a learning lesson.
Just thinking, I'm getting my goosebumps again. I would very easily say letting go of the fear of failure has been my biggest lesson. And one of the steps that I took to get through that fear is learning to trust my intuition,
Hmm.
learning to see the path that I'm on. And if one door closes, not to be downhearted by it, not to be in the phase of giving up, but I mean, I'll put it in this way. I used to hate rejection. I used to send a lot of proposals for when I was doing consulting work. Even in the world of event management, you send proposals and then you see which ones get picked up because people tend to pick three consultants
Best
and then
one,
they
yeah.
ask for their proposals and they pick either the cheapest one or the easiest one or the one that they're going to get a side commission from. I'm just
Hmm.
calling it as it is.
True.
And in that capacity, you hear a lot of no's or just zero responses, which is very, it's very disappointing. And it doesn't help you as you're starting to grow your business to think that people don't even respond to you. They don't even give you the courtesy to say, I'm sorry, but we went with somebody else. So even now, when I'm looking to work with freelancers or when I'm looking at proposals, I always let them know, thank you so much, but we've gone with somebody else because I remember how I felt when I was on the receiving end. And I think the rejections that I received, one of the ways that I was able to look at it very differently was I preferred to have a solid no rather than a so yes. And what I
Hmm.
mean by that is when someone gave me a, well, maybe we're thinking about it, let's get back to you kind of thing, there was hope. And
Hmm.
if the hope was not real and they were just leading me on, it really made me put a lot of time and effort to convince them or to convert them from a maybe to a yes. But when I heard a solid no, we're not interested, we're not going with you, you're not going to be able to go for this project, it gave me a closure. It closed the door, and I was like, thank you so much. I respect that. And I looked and I asked them, what could I have done that could have potentially turned this around? And if they told me, your price is too high, or which generally I never got that as a response, but it was, your time frame was maybe too long, or you actually gave us more, but we wanted to go in this direction and you were going in this direction. Whatever the reason was, I took it as constructive feedback. And I always took a solid no as more direction, rather than thinking, I don't want to hear the no. Please don't tell me no. Give me a maybe. I'm so dead against maybes. Maybes is living in the gray zone. And when you're living in the gray zone, you don't know whether you're coming or going, whether it's a prospective client, whether you should just cut your losses. But if I hear a solid no, I fully accept that. And I'm like, okay, so where am I going
Where should
next?
I take my energy next? Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't really want to invest my time, my energy, my focus, my drive, my passion, my inspiration, my motivation in something that is not even going to go anywhere. So I would always suggest ask for that strong, definitive no versus then looking for a so-so, maybe yes. And that will start getting you out of the fear of failure. Because if I send umpteen proposals and only maybe a fraction of them, let's say less than 1%, actually even get a foot in the door, I know that I'm doing something right because it allows me to improve. Every single proposal, I'm improving, I'm improving. There's never been two proposals I've sent out which have been the same, ever.
Mm.
I've always improved it in some capacity. So that's come because I didn't fear hearing a no. And I actually
Mm.
run an event on this where I titled it "Turning a Rejection into a Possibility" and how you can do that. Because every single time you hear a no, it's another opportunity for you to improve what you're doing and to
Mm.
start shaving that fear of failure. Because you can read all the stories you want, you can listen to all the different tales of people who have failed and how they succeeded and they become overnight successes, which doesn't exist, by the way. All of these things, at the end
Mm.
of the day, you need to have the right mindset, and that is don't fear failure, because it doesn't mean you failed at something huge and gigantic that you can't get over. It just means it wasn't for you. And I believe in the concept of believing there is something else for you. So there is so
That's
much
powerful.
out there. The pie is massive. Everyone can take a piece of the pie. Just because you lost one proposal, it doesn't mean it's a no-go. You should drop it. If you choose to drop it and give up, then it's another road, because it just lets you know you're not really invested in this. It's not really for you. But if I was going to let go of the ideas that I had, even I had one concept which is called Dubai Connectors back in, I think, 2015, 16. And this was one of the ideas where it was basically speed networking for professional business owners to connect to one another. The concept was you have an idea, because I was working on a lot of consulting projects and I was thinking, I can't do everything. So instead of me being a small portion of the big pie, why not collaborate with other entrepreneurs to bring together an entire portfolio and show up with saying, okay, if you have this tender, I will do this part, this person will do this. So we will all collaborate
As a
to
consortium.
perform this. Exactly. But what happened was people were very nervous about sharing their ideas, nervous about sharing their concepts, because they thought people would steal their idea. So this was too early in the game. Now, the more I talk about this with people, they're like, I'm ready to share, I have ideas. So the idea of collaboration back in 2014, 15
Did
wasn't the
not
right
exist.
time. People were just nervous about it. When I
Mm.
relaunched it again as a completely different concept, as a business service networking, it wasn't really speed networking, it was just networking functions in 2017, people were open to it. So it goes
Mm.
again just to justify the fact that once you have an idea, it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It just means take feedback from people and pivot and perfect the idea. Just keep working on it, see if there's a need for it, see if there's a gap in the market, sit on it. When the time is right, it'll happen. But don't go on the assumption that everything you're going to touch is going to turn to gold. No, be okay with hearing no's. And my biggest lesson has been listen to my intuition. I've taken so many wrong turns, wrong clients, wrong projects, just on the fact that it looked good on paper. or so and
Mm,
so said to me this person is really good, or they projected themselves to be super amazing. And as I went down that, I was like, what am I doing? It's not working. And my intuition told me. And this
mm,
this comes into my concept of there is a connection between your mind and your soul. As an entrepreneur, you need to trust it. I don't believe in having the perfect business plan. I believe in having your perfect life plan. Understand where it is you're going, know yourself, know your strengths, know who you are, what you want, and trust in that. Because no matter who says to you, this bank is going to take your account, this bank is not, it might not necessarily work. And when I came to open my business account only last week, I went with the bank that everyone was saying this is the best bank. And as I went through, everything was telling me it's not really sitting well with me. I don't like they're not really supporting startups. And I realized, no, why am I doing this? This is not the bank for me. I'm going to go with an alternative bank. And that literally happened within less than 5 days. And everyone has told me it takes over 2 weeks to get a business, a corporate account open, blah, blah, blah. No, less than a week. So when I listen to what my inner voice is telling me, it's never going to guide me wrong. And I've trusted this after failing a bunch of times with the wrong people, the wrong clients, even taking consulting reports where I took my 50% advance. I went along with it. And when it came to the settlement, the guy didn't want to pay for 6 months. And finally, I was like, what's going on? I don't understand. And my intuition had told me from day one, the guy is not the right person to work with. He doesn't want to support the idea of the business. He just wants to do something quick and get something cheap for what he wants. And at the end of the day, he never paid the 50% remaining. And I knew from the get-go, this guy isn't really the right person for me to work with. He's not a long-term client. He's a quick
Fareem,
turnaround.
I have a question in that case. Now, certainly in your case, especially because you interact with so many, new startups, with people who want to organize events, with corporates X, Y, Z. And though, as you mentioned, you make so many proposals, you pitch so many ideas, and let's say a client comes in, very often as an entrepreneur, you are torn between, okay, I need to pay the bills, I need to get the business going, and I also need clients. I need to at least have enough
Yeah.
conversations to know that something may or may not convert. And when it's at that fence where it may or may not convert, sometimes your intuition could be telling you that this is not the right person. But even then, you need that business. You need that either to put on your profile, you need it to, as a money generator, you need it just to be busy and to keep your team engaged, maybe. But how do you take smart risks in business, or how do you take a smart risk when it comes to entrepreneurship?
Okay. Very good question. I like that question. The concept of entrepreneurship is taking risks. So when I actually went back for one of my events to understand what is the definition of entrepreneurship, it's different to business ownership and owning a business or anything because it's about taking risk. So if there was certainty in anything you do, which I don't believe, nothing in life is certain at all. And as the saying goes, nothing is in life is certain except for death and taxes. I mean, that is kind of the concept. There is no certainty in life. And I
Well
think
said. I'm going to
with
write that down.
yeah, it's one of those sayings that I used to remember in the UK, and I was like, well, that's really morbid, but it's true. There is no certainty in life, and I think if anything we've learned during these last few months in 2020 with COVID-19, there is no certainty, but there never was. We were just
Mm,
under the illusion that we're in a job, there's security, we're going to be doing this for the next few years. There is a lot of people made redundant. I literally took a friend of mine who I've known for the last 11 years since I arrived in Dubai. She's been here for 15 years. She was made redundant and had to leave the country. So there is no certainty in anything we do. And that is the concept of entrepreneurship. So I think if we, again, when you need to be certain, you have a fear of failure. Everything
mm.
comes down to
Interlinked. Yeah.
disappointing yourself, disappointing your peers, your family, loss of potential investment you have, loss of you know where you are in your own journey, wasting time, losing time. There's a massive amount of loss that goes with entrepreneurship. And if we stop fearing the loss, we would start to celebrate the process of creation, of collaboration, of connection. And that's what entrepreneurship is for me. I don't want to focus on the downfalls of it. I accept that they exist, but I don't want to bring them into my everyday thinking. So what I prefer to focus on is looking at things in a very different way of a different perspective. Okay. So in my view, I think ultimately, whatever you want to do, go towards it like you have complete belief in it. You have to believe in what you're doing. No one else can believe in something you're doing unless you do. So without your true conviction and your 100% commitment to giving this everything you've got, it won't have a chance to progress. And I think ultimately anyone who starts in entrepreneurship, they have the same concept of they want to succeed. Okay. They want to create something. They want to ultimately have freedom, freedom
And
to
have
do whatever they want, whenever they
it.
want, however they want, with whoever they want. And I think in these last few months, again, it goes to show that there's entrepreneurship in everyone. We're all having to work remotely, working from home. We're having to be flexible. We're having to do things in a different way, like coming on Zoom and doing these online events, which we didn't do before. So
Mm.
we're all able to adapt. Why don't we capitalize on these wonderful traits that we've got and
Mm.
see if you've had an idea, connect to the right people, let it grow. Like, don't suffocate it, give it room to at least breathe. Let the idea have a little chance to just take some momentum. And if it grows, awesome. If it doesn't, and you just think, no, it's not for me, I'm not really in this, then you've tried. But I don't honestly think that anything in life is worth giving up on unless you've lost the love for it. I don't think it's giving up. I think it's realizing and accepting it's not for you. I don't think it's so easy to say I'm giving up on this. It's just realizing, you know what, it wasn't meant for me. I don't want to do this anymore, and I choose a different path. And this is where it comes to choosing who do you work with, who are the clients you choose to select, who are the partners you want to work with. And even for me, and I mean, we had a conversation earlier on this year, my concept of working on Hubpreneur, expanding the ecosystem,
I was
making it so
about
much
to
better.
ask you to tell me more and tell the
Yeah,
audience more about Hubpreneur because you have always spoken about collaboration. You've always stood for solopreneurs, for freelancers, for growing startups. And Hubpreneur is, I mean, it's a free app, guys. Like, come on, this girl with all the crazy stuff that she goes and, does out there. It's the only free app in the region where solopreneurs, freelancers, growing entrepreneurs can network, can meet other people to collaborate and share business, share resources, share put stuff together. So how did this come about, Fari? How did I know that you've done a lot of different things, but what really drove you to creating Hubpreneur? Where are you with it, and where do you want to take it?
okay. I love the fact that you put that all in a nutshell. So you saved me the trouble of explaining what it is. But the concept of Hubpreneur basically came out of two initiatives that I was running separately. And like I said, timing was not right. So as I was doing Fund DXP and I was listening to a lot of, and anyone who's seen me at Fund DXP, they'll notice I take a lot of notes while I'm moderating and hosting because I'm there to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm super curious. These people are giving their time to share their failure stories, and I want to learn and benefit from that. It's not just for me to go and stand there and take the stage and introduce them. I want to learn from what they've gone through.
Okay,
So
sorry,
out
sorry,
of that,
sorry.
yeah,
Tell us
yeah,
about both. Tell us about your time and what was your takeaway from Fund DXB? How did you do that? Because I believe it's a local version of the global movement fuck up nights. So
yeah.
how did you do that? What was the learning? How did that lead you to Hubpreneur? What is the learning and way forward?
Okay. I'll put it in a nutshell because
Cool.
I can talk about this for another 2 hours. Trust me,
I
and
can
you
talk to
and
you
I we
forever.
can just start talking for hours and hours on end. So, the whole concept came about when I was in my Dubai Connectors, which I mentioned earlier, one of the initiatives I ran, and it wasn't working out. I had so much belief in this concept, and it just was failing. I had moved back to Dubai after a marriage that wasn't working, so I divorced, another personal failure. So, in all of these concepts, I realized, well, what am I supposed to do in my life? Like, how am I supposed to now restart? I'm in my late 30s. What is going on right now? And I saw one of the people that I was following on social media who's always been pioneering entrepreneurship. He was attending an event. And I was like, well, what the heck? I'll just turn up anyway. And the title of the concept of the whole event was, fun DXP. And I didn't really look into it. I was like, I like fun. And I'm like, why not? Let's just go to it. I had no idea what I was expecting. When I went there, I met the guy who was the speaker that I went to follow and to listen to him. And I kind of loved the idea that people were standing there and talking about failure so honestly and so it was just free flowing truth. And
Mm,
I think as someone who's always been brought up in the mindset as culturally that you shouldn't be telling people about what you failed in, you should only
mm,
be celebrating your successes. Failure was a very big taboo culturally
mm,
for me. And coming from an Iranian family, I didn't really feel comfortable to share about the things that weren't working for me. I was keeping them very bottled up, and it wasn't healthy on a in a holistic way of living. And well-being as is something that I believe in, and I wasn't honoring my own um, path of well-being and self-acceptance and understanding this is just my journey. I was just bottling a lot of emotions. So through this event, I kind of connected to one of the organizers. His name was Jay, and I understood how he brought the concept. So out of Fuck Up Nights, which is an international brand, basically their concepts grew from, I think it was 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And basically there was a bunch of people sitting in Mexico constantly just talking about what failures they were experiencing on their business journey. And as entrepreneurs, we have a lot of things to share about what they're going wrong and things that we're finding challenging. Then they just said, why don't we make this a regular thing? And that's how it was born. It was people coming together to talk about what wasn't going right, what lessons they learned from it, and they made it into like a really fun event. And then it became a global franchise. And today we're I mean, the brand of Fuck Up Nights, which clearly we can't use that in the UAE due to, respecting within the region, we call it Fun DXP. So it's all about failures in entrepreneurship and celebrating those failures. So we don't start creating this mindset of fear of failure, but we use it more of one of the books I read a couple of years ago was Failing Forward by John Maxwell. And what he's basically shares is don't have a fear of failure, use it as a stepping stone to move forward. So
mm,
failing forward was something I was experiencing. I just didn't know how. And I think the power of when you want to do something to change your life, you meet the right people, and they're all those components that come together so beautifully to take you to the next path. And that's exactly what happened with Fund XP. I connected with Jay. I said to him, look, how can I support you? I do events. Why don't we kind of do something together? I can get the speakers ready. We'll do everything backstage. And it just happened two events later. He was stuck in Abu Dhabi. He was, hosting it and everything, moderating it. And he just called me and said, Fari, I'm stuck in Abu Dhabi. I can't make it. You've got to take the show. And I was like, excuse me, what? The show is about to start in 5 minutes. The speakers are here. I don't want to go on stage. Are you kidding me right now? This is not going to happen. And it was like as if the universe had said, Fari, it's your time. Get out there, take the microphone, do your thing. I was freaking out. I was like, even saying it now, I've got goosebumps again. I was like, what is going on? I'm not ready for this. I am not prepared. I don't know what to say. I know the speakers, I know the content, but I'm not ready. I've got stage fright. I can't do this. I just went on there and I just said, look, guys, this is the situation. I'm not going to be, taking this on like this is my thing. I just want you guys to have a really good time. There's a lot of amazing stories. And the entire game shifted. At the end of that event, I had so many people who came and said, you brought energy to the event. I loved your take on things. You're so blunt. And everything that everyone had told me was not working for me. I'm too blunt. I'm too opinionated. I'm too loud. Worked. Everyone loved it. They were like, you bring energy. You're on point. You don't care what people say. I was like, I think I found what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And that's where it started. So I went from behind the scenes to being on stage. I started to then come up with the different ideas together as the team. So me, Jay, and Brandon, we basically became partners in the franchise and curating the whole concept, bringing themes to each event, finding the speakers. And through these kind of events, I came to realize I shouldn't throw away an idea that I really believe in. I think I just need to work on it, tweak it, improve it, and see what I can do. And I really wanted to start something new. And it was the end of 2018 that I started to come up with an idea, which was an online platform, if you like an ecosystem where entrepreneurs can really plug in and get the support they needed. And the concept I had at the beginning was plug into coaches, mentors, people can help you on a personal and professional level. And the idea started when I started to do my due diligence and test the market and see what do entrepreneurs want. Yes, they would like support, but they also want to get support to grow their business. So I kind of started to merge these ideas together, and that's how Hubpreneur was born. Basically, the name changed like at least 6 times, and the branding. And again, I used it as I always do to experiment. So I went against the grain. I had zero marketing set up for it. The brand name I changed 3 times. The business plan still in the making. I still am in the process of creating my business plan. Everything was very ad hoc, but I had the idea and I wasn't going to shift from my idea. So I was like, let's go with it. Let's launch phase 1. I was self-funding, so it was all bootstrapped, personal funding by me. So I was like, I'm putting my personal money in this. I'm not getting any investors. I worked with startups. I worked on a barter system with a lot of them. So I was like, let's test the concept that I'm going to actually be, putting out there if it's going to work. And it does. So it then transpired to be a free app where if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're a graduate, you're an entrepreneur, you're contemplating setting something up, but you're not sure how to do it, who to do it with, what the concepts are out there, connect. It's about collaboration, connect to one another. I had a lot of people who kept coming to me and saying, Fari, can you recommend me a videographer? Can you recommend me graphic designer? Can you recommend me an IT? I was like, yes, 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 but I'm not LinkedIn. Can you please go and figure out who these, here are the people, go do your due diligence, find out who you want. Then the ideas started to kind of merge, and I realized this is what it could be. It's like a LinkedIn concept for people to connect on an entrepreneurial level, connect to one another, grow your business together. If you want a graphic designer and there's a freelancer, connect and grow. If you have an idea and there's someone who actually wants to launch the idea, they don't have the time, connect, collaborate, cultivate that, launch it. And events was something that allowed it to kind of evolve, because every event that I was doing was focusing on entrepreneurship. The video that you showed, which I love, was a few of the events that I did focusing on mastering your brand, protecting your brand. At the same time, it's about getting the idea that you want into a reality. Don't let it
Mm,
sit as an idea. Get the
mm.
right components, the right people in place, get your resources together and launch it. What are you waiting for? Like, the worst that can happen is it fails. Don't let it fail before don't invest money and then see it fail. Test it. I tested the idea for approximately 4.5, 5 months, and I realized people want this. People need this. They need events on entrepreneurship. They want support with regards to their personal and professional growth. They want to connect to one another. That's when I then realized, let's get on with it. Let's make it free. People can plug in. That's why I came up with the concept, plug in, level up, and then get on with it. And now I'm in the testing phase. And to be honest, during COVID, I had so many ideas about webinars, and I did a couple live shows like this, which I love the interaction. But I actually also realized I need to get that stability within my own personal situation, in as far as I need to get cash flow. And situation is now that clients that I was working with previously were now looking to get everything online, and they need a project manager. So I dabbled and I started to pull together things, and I started to pull freelancers together, and I said, you know what? Hubpreneur has to be on pause right now. I need to create this structure where I work on projects that will generate my revenue. I have that sound, solid footing that I can continue bootstrapping this and self-funding Hubpreneur. And that's what I've been doing for the last 5, 6 months.
Very
Um,
quick question
Tell me.
before you move on with that. Two things that come up for me. With yourself being an entrepreneur yourself, and with having this platform and this application where so many freelancers and self-employed and people who are startup founders come in, what would be your advice to, or how would you recommend that as a solopreneur or as a startup founder, as a freelancer, how can I scale my business? And if you are somebody who is, self funded, is that the right way to go? Till when should you do that? When should you seek funding? So I'll take it. I have two questions. The first part is, how will you help? I mean, how do you recommend uh, the freelancers and self employed to scale their business? And to scale, should they self fund themselves, or when should they look out for investment?
Okay, so great question. 2 points. First point, it's another myth I'm gonna demystify. Solopreneurship is way overrated. So you don't need to be a solopreneur. You don't need to do this on your own. You are not alone in entrepreneurship. And I have gone to the ends of the earth to say you don't need to do this on your own. There is so much support out there for you. You don't have to do everything. So solopreneurship was conceived on the idea that one person does everything for their business. And
Hmm.
ultimately, you do that to begin with because you need to test it. You need to see if it's going to work. You cannot put a team together before you even know if the concept's going to work. So you start doing everything. And I did that. I was a salesperson. I was a marketing person. I was creating my content. I was editing my videos. I was running the events. I was doing behind the scenes, on the scene, everything. So it's exhausting. And I think solopreneurs are exhausted. They experience burnout very quickly in the process. It's not a good long haul strategy to take. So whenever someone says to me, I'm a solopreneur, I'm like, do you realize there are options out there? They don't have to be because there are
Hmm.
people who are there to help and support you, and you don't have to pay for it. People are there to support, people are there to barter. And this is one of the concepts that I really want to bring into the next stage of Hubpreneur. You don't have to always pay for service, you can barter the service. So if I don't have the funds to receive coaching from you, I can say to you, listen, I would like to get 5 sessions of coaching, and in turn, I will manage 3 of your workshops or whatever it is. And you come to an agreement, and that barter is
A
the
win
oldest
win
way
for both.
business was done. Like
Hmm.
in before currency was created, it was barters. And I think that's one of the concepts that I love. Going back to the organic way of doing things, it's simple. You take money
Value
out of
for
the
value.
equation and it's a value exchange. So
Yeah.
I think the first thing is people not to think that they have to do this on their own. They don't. Um, so that was the first part when you asked about it. Second part, when it comes to bootstrapping, honestly, you can talk to anyone and everyone who's done bootstrapping, who's gone to investors, who's gone to VCs and all of these things. And I think you had someone, I think it was last week or a few sessions ago, she's an expert on funding. I am not an expert on funding. What I am an expert in is knowing that I want to have full ownership of what it is that I'm working on. And anyone who says to me, I don't have the funds to run this, I'm like, well, you find the money, you fund it yourself, because if you believe in the idea that strongly, you will put your own money in. You won't go and get someone else's money. And I've gone through business plans with people who have come up with 300,000 dirhams, 500,000 dirhams. I'm like, that's not an MVP. A minimum viable product means you get to the basic of the basic of the basic requirements to launch. Do that. You don't require 500,000 dirhams. You don't require 200. I launched the app, and every time I say this to anyone who has launched an app, they're like, that's impossible. I'm like, because I have very good convincing skills. And I was able to barter on the concept that I said, listen, I'm doing this. My platform is for entrepreneurs. Anyone who wants to launch an app, I will recommend you. Hello, do you understand how much money that is? And that's when they started to realize this is actually not a bad idea. So we were able to barter in exchange for cash and a system in
So,
referral as well.
hmm.
So at the end of the day, I think you've got to realize if you believe in something that strongly and people are not investing their money, you do it yourself. Then you've got to give it that time to breathe and that time to grow. You have to at least allow yourself to have 3 to 6 months of time to see where is this going. Are the clients that you had, because you always have to put in your business plan, prospective clients and your forecast. And I don't believe in any of that. If I was going to sit and write my forecast, I would be sitting in the Maldives right now, having a holiday because my business is making millions and I'm happy, happy. I didn't forecast the pandemic. I didn't
Hmm.
forecast my main business, which is events, to go online. I didn't forecast for any of this, and no one can. So forecasts are great for you to create the element of momentum and to plan, but you cannot base a business on forecasting for the next 5 years. So anyone who asks for your business plan for the next 5 years, I'm like, are you kidding me right now? It's impossible. You can't do that. So you have to have a plan, but you have to stay flexible and agile enough to be able to pivot. And I think for even when it comes to funding, invest your own money because you believe in it. If you cannot, that's when you go to your friends and family. And the ones who believe in your concept, they will invest. And you know that that's a sure thing versus a bank loan and a venture capitalist because they are the ones who will be nagging you and tapping you on your shoulder. Remember my investment? Remember my investment? Where's my money? Where's my ROI? You are going to have to deal with a lot more stress. I've got no one chasing me for anything. It's my own money. So for me, I can take 6 months to figure something out. I've got no one chasing me. And I worked hard to get that money to be able to invest it. So I would always suggest if your concept is at its MVP stage, it's not. It can go even lower than that. And that's one of the learnings I had. I reached an MVP and I said, now I'm ready to launch. And when I did my due diligence, I realized no, there's a stage below that that requires even less investment and I can launch. And that way I can test the market truly to see, is this worth even me investing any more money in it or not? And I really strongly would say to anyone, if you think you need the money from an investor, look at it from a different perspective. Launch with much less requirement of funds and see if the idea works. Then you're in a much stronger position to go for anyone to invest in your business if you choose to. And just know that the investor you select needs to have the same concept and the same patience that you have because they will be on your case. It's their money and they have every right to chase their return. But if they believe in you, not the business, if they believe in you, even if your business fails and you come up with another concept, they will fall through with it. Why? Because they know that you've got it. And I truly believe in my concept of mentorship that I'm going to launch in Hubpreneur is the mentor has to believe in you. The investor has to believe in you because they are your biggest mentor. Your investor should be like a mentor to you, not just the ATM machine. They should be believing in you. They should believe in your concept. They should want your idea to succeed, not just to see it as
Good
an
making
investment that can potentially grow and make them more money. It should be about a collaborative mindset. And I think when you find that kind of investor, you're okay. But
money.
just realize that you can be your biggest investor and it takes a lot of burdens off you if you invest your own money. But I would strongly say do your due diligence. It's a very difficult thing to say, due diligence. So
Diligence.
it's difficult to say, but not difficult to do. So definitely do your research because when you put your money in, that's it. You are investing everything you've got. And then you're only holding yourself accountable, which I think is stronger sometimes because you have no one else to fall back on. You have no one else to answer to except yourself. And that you kind of start to see things in a very different perspective. So I'm a big advocate of whatever your idea is, take it one step more basic. So simplify the idea as much as you can and see what the minimum amount of investment required is, truly the minimum. Then do your due diligence and then start and see if you need an investor or not. Because not every business requires an investor. I don't agree with that at all.
Got it. Fari, with Hubpreneur, what's the vision moving forward? What is it that you would like to tell every entrepreneur that's watching or that might stumble on this stream later? What would you like to tell them? And where are you going with Hubpreneur moving forward?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think one of the main points that I want anyone to know when they're either starting out, where they've started and they don't know where to go, or they're at a crossroads and they're just thinking, should I, shouldn't I? Should I continue? Should I give up? Should I start? Should I just continue what I'm doing? Wherever you are in that decision-making process, my message has always been, you are not alone. You don't have to see this as a solo venture. You don't have to feel like there are no resources available to you. There are. And that's the intention why I started Hubpreneur. It's a very simple plug in, level up kind of concept. You upload your details, it's a free app, you get a little bit more visibility within the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And I've let this grow organically Even the last few months that I haven't done any events, not done anything on it, it's still been growing through word of mouth. And I think that's one of the most positive takeaways I can get from this entire business venture, that if people are already happy to promote it without me asking them to give anything, or asking them to do it as a favor, they're doing it out of their own free will. It goes to show that it's working. So people are able to tap into something and feel part of a community, feel part of something which is bigger. That if they need someone, they can just reach out and say, I need a graphic designer. Who's out there? Da-da-da-da-da, search for graphic designer, and you get a whole bunch of people. You connect. You can start connecting to different people. See who you mesh with. I believe this very, very strongly. You should always see who you feel connected to before you start working with them, whether they're your client, your partner, your supplier, whoever it might be. So the vision I've got for Hubpreneur is, come September, October, I'm going to be plugging a lot more a lot more online events, bringing a lot of experts to the forefront, where they can share what you can do to scale your business, what you can do to start as the basic MVP kind of setup, if I can speak. Mentorship is on the plan forward, and I think really what I want to do is collaborate with coaches. And coaching for me has always been something in the last 5 or 6 years that I've done personally. I went into coaching and I became certified as various different coaching modalities, the therapies, and all of these. It helped me on a personal level, and I've actually allowed that to help me on a professional level. So I've understood the huge impact on a positive level that coaching can have. And then, of course, on top, mentorship. So I really want to bring that to the forefront and allow entrepreneurs to receive personal and professional coaching from people who necessarily might not be reaching out to entrepreneurs, because I've worked with a lot of different coaches who never focused on entrepreneurs because they always followed the myth entrepreneurs and startups don't pay. And I'm like, yes, they do. They require help. You've just got to give them the right package. If you offer them the right package and they connect to you, they will buy. And I think it goes again to the concept of people don't buy products, they buy people. So if they connect to you and they like what you're saying, they get your vibe and they're on the same page, you can help them, they can help you, your both of your businesses can grow. So again, all of these concepts are ideas that I've got. And I think now that the project management business is kind of forming itself and it's structuring itself in a very secure way, I have the peace of mind to plug more of my time, my resources into growing and cultivating Hubpreneur. So my vision is, well, if I actually went with my actual vision that I had by the end of 2020, I would have already been all over the Gulf. Nowhere near that. So I would have been at least 3,000 members. Nowhere near that. At the end of the day, I'm not going to sit and think, oh, it could have been this. I'm just going to look and think, thank God I'm here. Thank God I'm still in a business. Thank God I've just started a new business. Like, these are all positive takeaways. And I'm just going to keep putting that positive energy into everything that I do when it comes to Hubpreneur, events that I'm going to be running online, having incredible people like you who also had an idea. I remember the conversation we had way back at the beginning of the year, and I said, Avneet, what are you doing? Why are you not doing IG lives? Why are you not doing these live things? Get on it. You have such a great camera presence. You're great to do this. Get on with it. And I'm so thankful that you're doing it. It's beautiful to see your growth and your progress in such a short period of time. I mean, this concept, you're on your 5th episode. So for me, I love the fact that you're following your calling, you're following the path that is so designed for you, because you have an idea and you're putting it into a reality. And that's exactly what I think a lot of other people wish they could do. But I'm here to say you don't have to wish for it. You can make it a reality if you just take the right steps, get to the place where you can plug into the right resources, and you don't have to do this alone. There's a lot of people out there who are ready to help you.
Fari, I must say that I've had such a lot to learn from you because I have watched you, followed you over the years with what you've done and how you've created a platform such as Hubpreneur. I would like to close today's episode with sending you such a lot of positive energy love, and light because I truly believe in what you're doing, and it's a matter of time that it hits the roof. Until then, between now, then, and any other time in life, I'm standing with you, right behind you. So, with whatever in my capacity to support you, to support entrepreneurs who have a dream, who want to make it happen, who want to network with other people, guys, this is a free app. Go and download it now. It's available on on iOS and on Android. You have no possible reason not to download it. So now is the time when you go and you look at hubpreneur.com. Find Fari on Instagram. It's Fari, Fari underscore Zulf. That is Zolf.
F.
Sorry, I'm like mixing my alphabets up. So it's Fari underscore Zolf on Instagram. Hubpreneur, there's a website, there's an app. Go find it, go register yourself, go and look out for other like minded people who can support you with what you're doing. Grow, rise, and shine. Fari, it's been a pleasure chatting with you on all things failure and beyond. Thank you so much for being here and always here for you.
Thank you so much. I really just want to thank you again. I love what you're doing. I'm here to support you. And anything that you are doing for the greater good of the community, I think it's a brilliant venture what you're doing. And all power to you. I love you. And I think just keep doing what you're doing. Do you
Find
and
it
forget
back at
everything
you,
else.
Fari.
Just keep doing you. That's it. That's my message. Just do what you do best. Get on with it.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Fari. It's been a pleasure to have you, and I'm looking forward to continuing our conversation after the session. But thank
Me
you for
too.
being here, sending you lots of love and light. Rise and shine. See you.
See you.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much. See you.